On this clip, we're going to talk about the importance of food with budgies. Now, the biggest health problems that these guys have is generally related to diet. There's a lot of times people will just have a parakeet, and then one day they didn't even notice the parakeet was sick and it's dead at the bottom of the cage. What can happen a lot of times is basically bird seed that is bought in a bin or bought in a pet store is probably one of the worst things that you can consider feeding your parakeet. The reason being is that none of the stuff that goes into a pet store is FDA approved. That means that there's no one checking or quality checking the food that goes in to make sure that it doesn't have parasites, to make sure that it doesn't have bugs, to make sure that that grain doesn't have something called a fungal toxin. So fungus will grow in those bins as they sit there for months and months until somebody buys it off the shelf, or it's been sitting in a grain store. And those fungus, as they start eating some of the grain, they produce a toxin. Now, if these toxins, and if your bird ingests them, doesn't kill the bird outright the next day with this new bag of birdseed that the same brand you always bought, the same pet store you always bought it from, it doesn't matter. It's just that section of grain that might have been sitting in those bins finally got enough of those toxins in to become fatal. If it doesn't kill the bird outright, the other thing that can happen is those toxins are very similar to this type of toxin that alcohol has on people's liver, so it causes liver cirrhosis, so it damages the liver in their body, and over a long period of time, that liver damage eventually causes liver failure or fatty liver disease type things, and these guys can die from that as well. They just start acting sickly, and it shortens their lifespan. The other reason that you don't want to buy pet store, or any bird seed for that matter, these guys are not seed eaters in the wild. They're grainivores, so what they would mostly be eating are grains. So things like oats and corn. They would eat wheat if they could find it. They will eat things like millet. These guys also eat lots of berries and greens and little shoots that grow off of trees. They would eat little grass. The types of seeds that these guys eat in the wild is, as they're sort of foraging around, they'll eat grass seeds that are on the Australian grasslands, which are high in fiber but low nutrition. They're also fairly low in fat compared to like sunflower seeds that you pick up here. Most of the seeds that these guys get are Americanized seeds. They're fattened up and commercialized a lot the way that the apples that we get in the grocery store aren't that close to the wild apples that existed 300 years ago, before we started trying to make a fatter fruit, if you will. So they're kind of genetically modified. So you want to feed these guys foods that you pick up, ideally human-grade foods. All human-grade foods have been checked by the FDA, and somebody actually checks to make sure that they don't poison us, at least most of the time. So you can go to a Whole Foods or a Sun Harvest or any sort of these like kind of a whole food kind of stores, and out of the human food section you can use their bins to pick up whole grains to buy for these birds, hulled millet seed, leafy greens, and things like that. You just want to make sure that you use a human grade food for these birds, as they can be very sensitive to the toxins in commercialized bird seed, and as well as the type of bird seeds that are used in most commercial diets are too high in fat and too low in protein and fiber for this species.